Encounter is brought to you by the Broome County Council of Churches.
Welcome. You've tuned in to Encounter, a program of the Broome County Council of Churches, and we're glad that you joined us today. Encounter is an invitation to be in conversation about the things that matter in our communities, and an invitation to have conversation among our faith communities. I'm Jan Marsi, pastor at Endwell United Methodist Church and one of the hosts of Encounter. The month of February is designated as Black History Month, and it provides us with this wonderful opportunity to celebrate the contributions of African Americans in our culture. My guests today are Ken Boston, who is an architectural planner by vocation, and Dr. Blenda Smith, a retired faculty from the School of Nursing at BU, and now
nurse practitioner
for the County Health Department as a volunteer.
Oh,
Is that
no.
correct? Okay.
No. The county would like that.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Black History Month is this time to lift up and celebrate the contributions to our entire culture of African Americans, but it seems to me it's also a golden opportunity to go deeper than that and to look at our different life experiences that have all come together in the whole American narrative, because it is a different experience to be a person with light skin and a person with dark skin. And I wondered, first of all, as our conversation begins, if it might be a good place to start to talk about why it may be important to talk about what's different in our experiences. Ken, do you have thoughts about that? Or
I think that growing up in this country, we can find ourselves on two different ends of it. There are a lot of people who came to this country from Europe, and they came by boat and saw the Statue of Liberty, and everything was great. And then there are other people who came to this country, didn't see any of that, were shipped down south and became slaves. And then from there, their families kind of migrated north and throughout the country. And so the perspective of how they live is just a little bit different, and how they think about the country in general. And I think that's one of the things that we don't really think about. And at the same time, one of the things that is important to realize is the fact that there are contributions that we all have made to make this country where it is today. And that's important, and of course that's one of the reasons for Black History Month in general.
Blenda, you and I had the experience some years ago of being part of a training process that heightened our awareness about racial dynamics in our country. Some people may think that that's behind us, that the whole civil rights movement changed all that. But you and I were part of this training, and I don't know if like me, you went into it with one particular way of looking at things and came out of it differently.
It was an intense training for us. It was called Dismantling White Privilege, and my initial reaction was, privilege? I'm the daughter of Swedish immigrants. We were poor. I had to work my way through college. I proverbially pulled myself up by my bootstraps. What is this privilege thing?
Right.
This experience really changed us. It sensitized us, first of all, to this invisible privilege we have. And by definition, white privilege is an unearned advantage just for being white.
Right.
And that was something I just had no idea about. Some simple examples that helped me to say, aha, there is this thing called white privilege. If I walk through a department store, I don't expect anyone to follow me and think I might steal something. People of color don't have that advantage. If I do something really good, no one says to me, "You're such a credit to your race, Blenda."
Right,
Typical examples that we don't even see or think about,
right.
you know. And let me just say that oftentimes white people, when they hear as much as I just said, feel guilty, feel angry, feel violated that I should suggest that they're doing something wrong. We need to understand we were born into this system, those of us living today. We did not create it. We cannot say that we're guilty about it. What we do need to do is recognize the white privilege, because until we do that, we can't level the playing field. And this white just goes so far back. In the 1600s, it became a legal, a political definition to separate white people from Native Americans and African Americans. So almost 400 years, whites have had a separated power. And that power really protected them from slavery, from genocide, from land stealing. That's a big advantage to have had for 400 years and not even notice it.
I can hear people saying, but that's all behind us. That's all in the past. Now, you know, I feel the same way toward all my brothers and sisters. You know, I'm colorblind. Why is that not helpful?
I think one of the things that it becomes a defense mechanism, and if I don't recognize our differences, then one of the things that happens is I lose the cultural aspects of someone and the good things about certain ethnic cultures. All of a sudden, I don't recognize that at all. And in the fact that we're not all alike, and the thing is we don't have to be. It's okay to be different, and that's what needs to be embraced. It's very, very hard to get people to really to open up about that. If someone is a Polish American, and there's certain aspects of that are fantastic, and it is a part of the quilt work that makes this country what it is. Same thing with African Americans. There are things that we bring to the table that everyone needs to know about, that is important in the building of this country. And it's important for all of us to see each other through our differences, but embrace those differences as advantages as relates to this country in general.
Yeah, there seems to be these two prongs of things. One is that our common humanity, that there are things about us that are alike. I mean, we are all part of this global community and all the human community, and yet at the same time we bring these multitude of different gifts based on not only where we come from, but not only ethnic backgrounds, but also life experience. And I don't know if it seems to you this way, but it often seems to me that we try to simplify the whole situation by trying to be good people and nice people and accepting people. We want to overlook some of the things that make us complex and challenging to work together as one body. Does that seem to ring true for some of you, for your experiences?
I think that there's a lot of truth in that. We want to close our eyes to some of the things of our past. In the process, there are some things because of our past that allow us to be what we are today.
Yes, exactly.
So there are things that went terribly wrong as it relates to slavery and things of that nature. But out of that, you have someone who goes ahead and invents different ways to use the peanut. Cotton becomes a big thing in our fabrics, and materials that are made from cotton become huge in this country. A lot of our industry is based on, and the foundations of it are based on some of the things that happen there. A lot of our character comes out of that in both races.
In both,
and I think
yes.
one of the things that we do when we close our eyes to all of it, because it was such a horrendous and horrible time, we also close our eyes to some of the things that happen that are end up being good things out of it. And so it is a part of our history, and we need to embrace it as such. What we have to do now is to be able to be mature enough as a people and as a society to be able to move on from it and say, okay, here's the differences that we have, but I can embrace you as a white person, and with all the gifts that you have as a white person, you can embrace me as a black person with all the gifts that I have. And we can move together to make this country what it's supposed to be.
One of the things that has struck me sometimes as we have talked about this whole process since this awareness of privilege that's unearned and really undeserved, but has happened in the past. We've talked about black people as having been victims of a society that put them in a particular kind of place, and is it not true that we're all kind of victims of what happened? That is, in whatever ways that it injured black people, perhaps it also injured white people too, and we don't think about that. Injured us in different ways as whole people. Or do you comment on that? Or?
I truly believe that is that is in fact true. We all suffer from the disease. The problem is that I suffer differently from you. And one of the things that is really important about understanding that is there are a lot of white people who will look at it and say, well, I can understand that black people look at themselves as a victim based on the things that have happened, and I understand that, and that is a problem that they have. But it's the problem that they have. And I don't have that problem, when in fact, actually you do. A lot of the laws that we, for instance, in hiring people, are made to compensate for the problem of racism and really what is prejudice. And so we go to great lengths to skirt around the issue of that. We go to great lengths to be politically correct, which is really all about that.